All right, let's talk about the digital hunt. Today, we're diving into that first, super methodical and honestly, often invisible step of any cyber attack: hacker reconnaissance.
When you see a pride of lions on the hunt, for most of the time, it looks like they're just lazing around, right? Just sitting, watching, observing the herd. But that patient observation, that's the most critical part of the whole thing. They're mapping movements, they're spotting the weak link, and they're planning their attack. Well, in the world of hacking, it's exactly the same. The real work is done long before a single line of malicious code ever gets sent.
So this whole first stage, this patient observation, it has a name. It's called footprinting, or reconnaissance. And it's really the art of gathering every single piece of information you possibly can about a target. The goal here isn't to attack, not yet. The goal is to build a complete picture, a map, of the target's entire digital world, so you can find the absolute easiest way in.
Okay, so how does this digital hunt actually play out? Well, we're going to follow the trail through 5 key stages. First, we'll get into that patient mindset, the lion's game. Then, we'll uncover clues that are just hiding in plain sight. After that, we'll see how attackers turn Google into a weapon, learn how to read a network's hidden map, and finally, we'll break down the huge difference between watching from a distance and actually knocking on the door.
So let's start with the why. What are hackers actually trying to do in this phase? I mean, this isn't just random data collection. It's a super focused intelligence mission with very, very specific goals.
And it really all boils down to these 4 things. First, an attacker needs to figure out the target's defenses. What kind of locks are on the doors. Second, they've got to narrow their focus. Instead of trying to attack a whole city, they just pick one building. Third, they start identifying the most obvious weak spots: an unlocked window, maybe a cracked foundation. And finally, they put all these little details together to draw that network map we talked about, a complete blueprint for the attack.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it, but so much information is just out there. It's totally free, available to anyone who just knows where to look. And this is where the hunt begins. Not with some complex, crazy tool, but with simple observation of public stuff.
And where do you think is the first place an attacker looks? The target's own front door, its corporate website. Companies want to share information with customers, with investors, with potential employees. And in doing that, they often share a goldmine of intelligence with attackers too.
So the key is to dig a little deeper than just the homepage. Employee directories give you names and job titles, perfect for social engineering. Press releases might announce new technologies or partnerships. Sometimes you'll find technical details just accidentally left in the source code. Heck, even the cookies a site uses can tell you what kind of software and scripting languages are running on the back end. But a company's website is just the beginning. There's another often overlooked source, and this one is brilliant. If you really want to know what technology a company uses, just look at who they're trying to hire. Job boards are an absolute treasure trove of technical intelligence. And this just perfectly illustrates the point. This isn't a guess, it's a shopping list. A job posting like this doesn't just hint at the internal tech, it hands an attacker a detailed list of the operating systems, the databases, the backup software they're using, sometimes even the exact version numbers. That is a massive head start. Okay, so we all use search engines every single day, but with a few simple tricks, these tools we use all the time can be turned into weapons, tools to find information that was never ever meant to be public. This whole technique is known as Google hacking. The idea here is really simple, but it is so powerful. Instead of just searching for basic keywords, you use special commands, operators, that are built right into the search engine. This lets you fine-tune your search to look for, say, specific file types, or words in a URL, or info only on a particular site. You can uncover things that a normal search would just completely miss. So here's a quick look at some of the basic tools in the toolkit. The in-title operator. That just searches page titles, which is perfect for finding login pages. Then you've got in-URL, which looks for keywords right inside the web address itself. The file type one is incredibly powerful. It lets you hunt for specific documents like spreadsheets or even sensitive VPN configuration files. And finally, site lets you narrow your whole search down to just one single website.
Let me give you a real-world example. A Nessus scan report is basically a company's diary of all its known security problems. It's one of the most sensitive documents a security team can have. And yet, with one simple, targeted Google search, you can find times where these reports have been accidentally left on a public server for anyone in the world to see.
So,
Google is fantastic for searching the web, right? The collection of websites and documents we all interact with. But what about all the other things that are connected to the internet? The servers, the routers, the webcams, the industrial control systems, all of it?
Well, that's where this thing called Shodan comes in. People call it the hacker's search engine for a reason. Instead of indexing web pages, it indexes the internet itself. It's constantly scanning every IP address on the planet, grabbing information from every device that responds. This means you can search for stuff like webcams with default passwords, vulnerable servers, or even the control systems for critical infrastructure, like power grids and water treatment plants. It's wild.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Every single time you visit a website, you're using the internet's address book. It's called the Domain Name System, or DNS. And for a hacker, this public address book can also be a blueprint of the target's entire internal network.
Here's a little technical detail, but it's super important. All of this DNS traffic happens on port 53. The quick, simple requests, like when you just look up a name, use a protocol called UDP. But the much more detailed requests, the ones we really care about right now, use a more stable protocol called TCP.
You see, a DNS server holds all these different types of records, and each one reveals another piece of the puzzle. An A record is the most basic. It just links a name to an IP address. The MX record, though, that's a high-value target. It points directly to the company's email servers. NS records will tell you what the company's own name servers are. And the SOA record, that points to the big one, the primary, most authoritative server for the whole domain.
Now, the ultimate goal of DNS footprinting is to pull off what's called a zone transfer. This is a special command that's supposed to be used by backup DNS servers to get an updated copy of all the records from the main server. But if a company messes up the configuration of its main DNS server and allows a zone transfer from any computer on the internet, well, an attacker can download their entire DNS database. It's literally the equivalent of walking out the front door with the complete architectural blueprints to their network.
So far, pretty much everything we've talked about involves gathering info without ever directly poking the target. But there's a line you can cross. And that brings us to the crucial difference between passive and active reconnaissance. Okay, so on one hand, you have passive footprinting. This is the line watching from a distance. It's using public stuff like websites, Google, and basic DNS lookups. There's no direct touch, so the risk of getting caught is super low. But then you have active footprinting. This is like walking up and actually rattling the doorknob. It involves direct interaction, setting packets to a server to see what ports are open, or even calling an employee on the phone. You can get way more information, sure, but your chances of setting off alarms go way up.
And this is where we have to talk about the real-world stakes, because this isn't a game. Ethical hackers, the good guys who do this legally, operate under super strict contracts. This line here is from a standard agreement, and it's a huge reminder that even just reconnaissance tools can cause accidental damage. It just hammers home the point that you absolutely must have explicit written permission before you ever go from passive watching to actively touching a target system. Without that permission, it's not hacking, it's a crime.
So we've spent all this time looking at how attackers hunt for a company's footprint, but it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? The same tools can be used to see your own, from your social media posts to public records and all the little technical details you leak every time you go online. What story does your digital footprint tell?